having a good day? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School. Now I'm going to give you guys time to come into the chat. And I want to address something really, really quick that I think is worth your time that you all should know about. Black economics is, as you guys know, that's one of the most important topics of any presidential election or whatever the case may be. It's also one of the most important topics in the Black community right now. Right now, there's a lot happening with people looking for Black votes. Some of those people can't be trusted, but some of them maybe are potentially evolving.
I found a way to run my
in some way, but I can say honestly, I'm not particularly trusting of any of the presidential candidates. I don't plan to vote for anybody. I want to make that 100% clear before I begin. But that does not mean that you can't vote. That does not mean I don't support and believe that you have the right to do what works best for you and your family. So let me hop in and kind of address some of what I've seen and what led me to do this conversation today. There's a guy named Pete Buttigieg who's running for president. And I don't know if you guys know who he is or not. Give me a yes or no in the chat if you're aware of who Pete Buttigieg is. I had to practice pronouncing his name because, it's hard to pronounce Buttigieg. But yeah, especially when you look at the spelling, it's kind of strange. But anyway, Charlamagne interviewed him. I think it's because they're going down to South Carolina now and trying to get votes down there. He doesn't have a lot of Black support. So he's been speaking with Charlamagne, and Charlamagne in good fashion. And I respect this brother. I want to make it 100% clear. He's cool. Charlamagne and I are very cool with each other. He asked him some direct questions about Black economics. And that is something that he and I share an extensive love and respect for certain key figures in the Black community, namely Louis Farrakhan, Dr. Claude Anderson, etc. And so with that said, this doesn't mean I'm telling you to co-sign on everything Charlamagne says and does. Some stuff may bother you, some stuff you may not want to ride with, but I encourage you to support people when they're doing the right thing, and so with regard to Black economics, I can just tell you based on my experience and what I've seen, he really cares about this stuff. And I think that's a wonderful thing. Now, here's what happened in terms of their conversation. So do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please hit the thumbs up button, share and subscribe. If you're on Twitter, please retweet. My Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins, so follow me on Instagram as well. So the article is on ABC News, and on ABC, the title of the article is Buttigieg Gets Candid with Charlamagne Tha God on Black economics. Charlamagne Tha God sat down with Democratic presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg in his hometown of Moncks Corner, South Carolina, for a conversation about the 2020 hopefuls' economic agenda for African Americans. The radio TV personality held no punches, asking frank questions about the former South Bend, Indiana mayor's record on closing the racial wealth gap in his own city, while teething through the details of his Douglas plan, which supports Black entrepreneurship, funds HBCUs, and invests in Black-owned businesses with federal dollars. Now, this Douglas plan, maybe you guys can tell me in the chat. I don't know if this is Buttigieg's plan or if this is Charlamagne's plan. But what I'm seeing here, if whoever's plan it is, if something like this gets implemented, it does have my preliminary stamp of approval, because I think that those sort of hot button issues are what would actually move the needle forward on Black economics, Black entrepreneurship. You need funding available so that Black businesses can get money that they need in order to build companies. You also need training and funding. Like Tyler Perry, for example, could make a bunch of money for himself if he opened up an entrepreneurship sort of facility especially for filmmakers, so that Black filmmakers besides himself could become famous by writing scripts, making productions, and finding processes to mass market these productions, whether it's through online or in movie theaters or whatever, right? Black entrepreneurship centers. I told you guys, if I had an extra 20 million in the budget right now, I would actually go around the country building Black entrepreneurship boot camps for all these young brothers and sisters that are in the hood, that are healthy, that have plenty of free time, and plenty of intellectual ability. Instead of hustling in the street for Pablo Escobar, you can actually hustle for yourself and build something for your family. And then that third piece, HBCUs. HBCUs are significantly underfunded. HBCUs, if you compare the endowments of HBCUs, the endowment, if you add up all the endowments of all the HBCUs combined, it doesn't match even, I think, 1/5 of the endowment of a school like a USC or something like that. So HBCUs are significantly underfunded. I think literally something like $20 billion right now, not 20 years from now, not in the future, $20 billion right now to ensure that at least we had 10 to 20 HBCUs with billion-dollar endowments would be massive. That would make a big difference. And there are things that we spend a lot of money on that don't get Black people any results. That's one way you could fix your HBCUs tomorrow. If HBCUs, now mind you, mark my word, I'm going to repeat this because I want you to walk away with this. If they were to take $20 billion and say, we're going to give $1 billion each to the top 10 HBCUs for their endowments, for investment capital, that will fund and sustain these institutions. And then the other schools will split the last 10 billion. HBCUs will be set for a very long time. I mean, of course, you got to go in there and fix some of the ridiculousness that's happening in terms of some of the nonsense with some of the schools in terms of how the money's being used or whatever. But, bad management is not specific to HBCUs. There are plenty of white institutions that have similar problems. So this is not a Black thing. So anyway, let me keep going. He says, I think that the biggest lesson in the last 50 years when it comes to racial inequality is among the well-intentioned is that you can't just take a racist policy and replace it with a neutral one and expect everything to get better on its own. That's a profound statement, and that's 100% true. I hope he wasn't just playing to the crowd, but what he's basically saying is that you can't fix the effects of racist policies by saying you're not going to do it anymore. Like if I'm stabbing you in the gut 50 times, I'm not healing you by saying, okay, I'll stop stabbing you. Now I want you to get better. No, I need to go heal you now. And they're not doing the healing process. So moving forward, the Southern crowd appeared to be impressed with the mayor's knowledge of the nuanced social issues impacting the Black community, particularly regards to healthcare disparities, etc. He says, quote, we've got to deal with health equity gaps, like the fact that a Black woman is 3 times more likely to die related to childbirth as a white woman, or that diabetes and cancer mortality and detection are worse for Black men. Excellent point. Charlamagne asked the candidate about his plans to address the wealth gap for college-educated Black Americans who earn the same degrees but make less money. He says, quote, when Black home ownership is at its lowest level since almost the time of the Fair Housing Act came into place, what we are seeing is that way of building wealth has been excluded generationally, and it never comes back without intention. That's why I proposed the 21st Century Homestead Act, and we're very careful about calling it the 21st Century Homestead Act instead of the original Homestead Act, largely excluding Black Americans, and it was at the expense of Native Americans. Okay, good answer. I mean, he's answering the questions really well. He's doing a lot better than Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders totally fucked up almost all those questions and did not give answers that made any damn sense to anybody who understood even the basics of economics. Whereas Pete Buttigieg is actually seeming to try, and I respect that. I'm gonna tell you, I'm impressed with the interview. I'm not, he still hasn't have my vote. I need to hear more. I want to see, strong positions on reparations, things like that. But this guy seems like he's not bad, at least based on what he's saying when Black people are listening. One thing, he sounds better than Obama. Let me just say that. I'm gonna just tell you the truth. He sounds a lot better than Barack Obama did, because Barack Obama didn't feel that he needed to give Black people anything other than imagery, symbolism, right? He smoked some Newports, he'd walk with a little bit of swag, he'll sing along with the choir, eat some barbecue chicken, and a lot of folks fell for that. Whereas this guy is being pressed. And the reason he's being pressed a little more is because he's white. If he were a Black candidate who had swag like Obama did, they wouldn't be pressing him. In fact, you wouldn't be allowed to press him. And that's why sometimes having a white guy who's actually trying to do right by Black folks can be better than having a person who has Black skin who doesn't want to do anything for Black folks. Because I can tell you, as a person who worked next to Russell Simmons when we were trying to get the Obama administration to change their incarceration policy for Black people. The Obama administration was not cooperative at all. We had to make them do it. We had to literally use celebrity power. We had to use, the names of everybody from Will Smith to Justin Bieber to Jamie Foxx to Kerry Washington and all these other people. To sign this letter. When that happened, that's when they felt like, oh my God, the bubble's about to burst. Black folks are going to realize we're not fighting for them. So that's when they changed the policy. It was not easy. I was very, very upset about the fact that the Obama administration refused to want to do the right thing. I just have to tell you guys that truth. You can believe me if you want to or not. So So anyway, moving on, hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. He says one thing that I've got, one thing I think is really important, especially for Democratic elected officials to understand, is that a lot of black folks have gotten the feeling that Democrats running for president take black folks for granted, Buttigieg replied. And a lot of the audience agreed with that. He says, we got to remember that the party is for us. The party isn't just for folks in the staff in the DNC, blah, 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 blah. And then he says something at the end that was interesting. He said, let's see, he says, I'll be honest, mostly white folks show up to my events. I'm happy for the folks who are showing up, but in order to win, I got to speak to everyone. The simple fact is that I have to earn the support from black voters. He says, how do we know? So Charlamagne asked him, he said, how do we know you aren't just blowing smoke up the black community's ass to get our support? And here's what he said. He said, I didn't get into running for office in order to comfort the comfortable. I walked away from a pretty good paying job in business in order to make myself useful back home. And that means making yourself useful to everybody who has a reason to doubt whether government's working for them. And he says, I only get a 4-year trial period. And then if I'm not doing the job, y'all can fire me. That's a nice statement. But the problem with that statement is that we've given a lot of people those 4-year trial periods. And it's kind of like a horny frat boy, tricking a girl into having sex with him. Think about this. I mean, she can't just give every guy a trial period and say, here, have access to my body. And then we'll just figure out later on if you're going to be nice to me or not. A better strategy might be to do some more vetting in the beginning to make sure that before you give somebody access to something that is valuable to you, you check out what you're actually dealing with. That means, before you give them access to your vote, you make sure you're dealing with somebody that's going to respect your vote. Before you give them access to your money, you make sure that they're going to do right by your money. And that's the way you get ahead. That's actually how you get real power. So anyway, that's it, guys. I hope you guys have a good day. Thank you for hanging out. Make sure you subscribe to the Black Financial Channel. It's theblackfinancialchannel.com, THE. That's theblackfinancialchannel.com, where we do daily financial news and commentary from a Black perspective. It's Black owned. And also go to the Black Business School, theblackbusinessschool.com. You can actually get started for free. And Black Movie Night is tomorrow night. Don't forget, if you'd like to join us at Black Movie Night, go to blackmovienight.net. That's blackmovienight.net. So I'm out of here, guys. Have a good day. I'll see you soon. Be good. Peace.